Jungkook gathered his men and sat in the car, starting the ride towards the north location. During the whole ride, Jungkook was clenching the wheel with his sweaty hands. Jungkook was nervous, trying to think about what would happen if they weren't there. He quickly shook his head. An hour and a half into the ride, his phone rang. Jungkook looked down at the caller ID, finding Yoonjin's name jumping out. He quickly answered, hoping that he has good news. Anything? Jungkook asked eagerly. No, everything has burned down ever since that accident. I'm gonna go and join guys now, he said, and Jungkook sighed. Okay, you go, he said, and was about to end the call when he called Jungkook's name. What? We will find them. Jungkook didn't say anything after that but disconnected the call. After another 40 minutes, Jungkook finally came near the location and exited the vehicles. Gathering into the circle, Jungkook explained the plan once again. This warehouse is damaged from the explosion that happened years ago, so you know that it's not stable. Watch where you put your legs. Look at every single corner, okay? Jungkook explained and they all nodded their heads. Let's go, Jungkook said and started to lead the way towards the location. Upon coming near the entrance of the warehouse, Jungkook's phone vibrated in his pocket. He pointed towards his men to wait a minute. He took a phone out and answered it, not looking at the caller ID. Mark's voice came through. No one is here, boss. It's clear, he said. Okay, we are right next. He started, but movement in the window on his right caused him to look up from behind the trees he was hiding. I'll call you later. That was all he said in a hushed tone before he hung up. Turning towards his men again, Jungkook pointed towards the window, telling them silently that they are not alone. Seeing that they received messages, Jungkook signed them to start moving towards the warehouse. Hope both are here, was his last thought as he started moving forward. Come here, sweetie. You called Jung-hoon, who was crawling around the basement. You fell asleep last night and he somehow crawled out of your arms, and now he was crawling around the basement and you can't get him because your legs are tied. Come to me, baby, you said, trying to get his attention, but that didn't work. Over this, you think it was 2 days. You are not quite sure people here were somehow nice towards you. I mean, They didn't put their hands on you. On other hand, you didn't really even have any type of contact with them. Well, except when they would bring food, but that would be while you sleep. That man Jackson, he hasn't preceded you since that day. And you must admit you are glad because he makes you scared. You don't know, but something about him just screamed danger. Jungkook didn't tell you much about him, only that he is not a good man. Honey, you won't. Come here to me, baby, please, you said, softening your tone at the end. You were startled when you heard a jingle of the door upstairs. You looked in horror as doors swung open and an unknown man steps in. Jung-hoon, you hissed at him, getting scared that that man is going to hurt him. You don't know what would you do if they do something to him, if they hurt him. The man looked at you over the railings, then a crawling baby on the floor on the other side of the basement. Lifting his head, you locked eyes and he sensed your sickening smoke. Putting his hands in the pocket of his slack, he slowly started to make his way down the stairs. His smirks widened when he realized that his slow pace is causing your fear to grow. You looked at him, not being able to move your eyes from his figure in fear that he might be going to do something. He got near blabbering Jung-hoon and knelt in front of him. Please don't hurt him. You begged, looking at him with pleading eyes. He turned towards you, raising his brows, then picked Junghoon up in his arms. And what will you do if I hurt him? He asked with something in his eyes that you couldn't recognize. Please don't hurt him, he is just a baby. You begged once again as he started to walk closer to you. True, he is just a baby, but he is also Jungkook's son, isn't he? He said the last part with a sinister smile, looking at the baby in his arms. You stayed silent as he came to stand next to you, roaming his eyes over your body. You self-consciously pulled your knees to your chest, trying to hide. He chuckled at your reaction and kneeled down, putting Junghoon on the floor, not taking his eyes off of you. He then turned his body towards you, taking a strand of your hair that fell over your face, swirling in between his fingers. You know, I think I can see why Jungkook started liking you, he said as he tugged a piece of his hair behind your ear. He took you by surprise and you screamed when he grabbed a fistful of your hair and pulled you towards him, so both of your faces were almost touching. You know, he has only a couple of hours to find you, and if he fails to find you, he paused and started caressing your lower trembling lip with his finger. Then we are going to have fun with you. A lot of fun, he said as he pushed you on the floor, making you hit your head on the floor. Standing up, he was about to step closer to you when someone knocked on the door. Well, unfortunately, our time here is over. But don't worry, gorgeous, we will see each other soon. I don't believe that he will ever find you, he said, looking at Junghoon in disgust. You pulled the baby boy in your lap, tucking him into your jacket. Holding him close to you. With a look of disgust and disappointment, the man turned around and climbed upstairs. Stopping in front of the door, he sends you a wink and exits out. You looked around, letting everything that he said slowly get to your brain. What is this? Some kind of game? There was silence as he slowly started rocking Junghoon, hoping that he is going to fall asleep. After a couple of minutes, his eyes started slowly to drop. You looked at him, not knowing what to do to help him out of here. You don't want him to get hurt, but at the same time, you can't get him away from these people. You sadly sigh as you pulled sleeping Junghoon closer to your chest, keeping him warm. I'm gonna keep you safe, as best as I can, you said, kissing his head gently. He was sleeping on your chest for quite some time now, when suddenly there was yelling heard from upstairs. The yelling started to get louder and louder along with gunshots. You wrapped your arms tightly around Junghoon, keeping him in place, trying to protect him as best as you can. You put your hands over his ears, trying to muffle all the sounds at least a little bit. He shifted a bit and opened his eyes, looking at you with those blue orbs. Shh, I'm here. I'm not going anywhere. You whispered in his ear as you rubbed his back a little, trying to keep your fear at bay so you could comfort him. The noises started to be heard from in front of the doors, and your body went cold with dread. There was yelling, but you couldn't recognize what they were saying because it was muffled through the door. Suddenly, there was banging on the door, and the doors were thrown open. You instinctively pulled Junghoon closer to you, turning around so that if something was about to happen, he doesn't get hurt. There was a sudden silence, and you closed your eyes, keeping your tears from spilling, waiting for something to happen. But instead, you was greeted with the voice of a man that you would see every time when you close your eyes. Wyatt, he called softly, and you turned towards the direction of the voice only to find him a couple of feet from you. When did he get here? From there. You looked at his face and let a relieved sigh along with tears to freely fall down your cheeks. Jungkook, You croaked, and he instantly walked towards you, pulling Jung-hoon and you into a hug. When he pulled away from a hug, he skimmed his eyes over you both, looking for any kind of injuries. When he was sure that you both were not injured, he took Jung-hoon from you and took your hand, pulling you up to your feet. I can't, you whimpered, and he looked at you confused. You pointed to your legs, showing him that they are tied. He looked at it, then called one of his men who cut the chain off your legs. You sent a grateful smile in his direction and stood up. Your legs felt like jelly, but you didn't let that stop you from grabbing Jungkook's hand and let him lead you out of this hell. Jungkook moved his eyes from the road and looked in the rear mirror, seeing you and Junghoon on the back seat. He sighed in relief, knowing that they are again with him, safe and sound. When they got in the warehouse, there weren't that many of their men as he expected. There were less than 10 people. Jungkook could only think that Jackson or knew that he is gonna find them, so he didn't put many of his men. Or he believed that he is gonna fail, so he didn't need much security to watch over Junghoon and you. Jungkook looked back at the road and continued his way home. During the ride, he could feel eyes on him, and whenever he would look at you, would send him a smile. When they finally arrived home, you were immediately pulled into Jin's arm, who didn't let you go for quite some time, just holding you near him. Jungkook looked at you and Yoonjin and smiled, knowing how much he cares about you, but he also couldn't help the jealousy that took hold of him. Jungkook picked up Junghoon in his arms. Dada, he squealed once again like he saw Jungkook for the first time and he laughed at him. I'm here, baby, I'm not going anywhere, he said, cradling him into his chest. He looked at Yoonjin while patting his back. Let her breath. Yoonjin pulled slightly away from you. Come on, you must be tired, he said, turning to you and extending your hand for you to take. He placed your hand in his after saying good night to Yoonjin. Jungkook led you to the room upstairs, but you stopped near the door of your bedroom. Can I sleep here? You asked timidly while looking down at your feet. Jungkook took your words in looking at you. He told himself that you need some time alone. Sure, you can, he said, trying to keep hurt out of his voice. He stepped closer to you, kissing your forehead. I'm only a door away if you need anything, he said, and let you get inside your room first before he turned and headed in his room with Junghoon.